The Black Studies program at Cleveland State University welcomes you to this season of Images, a public affairs radio forum dedicated to open dialogue on a variety of diverse topics of interest and issues of concern, which focus on the life and experiences of African Americans and all peoples of African descent. By visiting our website at www.csuohio.edu/blackstudies or calling 216-687-3655, you can learn more about upcoming Black Studies program events and activities. Now, here is your host for Images.
And welcome to Images. I'm Prester Pickett, your host for this broadcast of Images. We have an exciting conversation today that will connect Black History Month into Women's History Month because, again, of our special guest, Miss Evelyn Burnett, who is the co-founder and CEO of Third Space. We're going to learn more about Third Space as well as our special guest right now, even in asking her to introduce herself to our listening audience and for those who will watch us on YouTube, our viewing audience as well. Nice. If you will introduce yourself, and again, welcome to Images.
Thank you so much for having me. My name is Evelyn Burnett. I'm co-founder and CEO of Third Space Action Lab and Cafe. We're a grassroots solution studio based in Cleveland, but more specifically in the Glenville neighborhood.
With your background and your educational path that directed you towards, becoming an entrepreneur and advancing with Third Space, can you give us some understanding of where you acquired your degrees and what you did to eventually end up in a particular major that advanced this career for you?
Sure. I think I always say my first formal education was on the east side of Youngstown, Ohio. A lot of education from my mom and dad, who were really active people, and so that kind of foregrounds everything. I was a Catholic school kid, so that has shaped a lot of the way I think about the world, the work I do. I went to Catholic school from K through 12, even though I'm not Catholic. And then I really wanted to be a barber my senior year of high school, but in late August I decided to go to the University of Akron, where I did a undergraduate degree in business and organizational communications with a double minor in marketing and sales and dance. And then I went on and did pretty immediately following a master's in public administration.
Well, you're right at home, literally so, with Black Studies. In that as well, Dr. Thomas Bynum is a relative. Can you introduce that to our listening audience?
Yeah, that's my cousin. So right. I'm super excited to be here, a guest of Black Studies, and to have a really deep connection to Black Studies through somebody that I know and love and have known my whole life. So
and your mother is one of our students here as well, and we're looking forward to having her as a guest on the show.
We should.
The experience we've had with you as well includes the fact that you've been a panelist on one of our Umoja roundtables and the discussion of how individuals who acquire a minor or a major in Black Studies can advance their careers in the field. So we definitely thank you for that. Our attention to your background and career right now relates to your identity as a social activist. So would you first help me understand and define what you would say a social activist is, and then if you could relate to your own personal experience and say what factors influenced you to become a social activist?
Yeah, the term social activist is one that I wrestle with a lot. I think for me it is a person who is concerned deeply with the world around them, that is in pursuit of the best possible world and society that they can live in. So I think that the issues can vary really, greatly. For me, my social activism is really focused on inequity, particularly racial inequity, in my neighborhood, in my city, in my state, in my country, around the world. So, the levels and the ways that I engage in activism at those different levels looks different. But I think it's someone that is concerned about a cause, about an issue, about a problem, about a challenge at any level, and is willing to take some sort of action, which I think, involves taking risks and involves rolling up your sleeve and understanding something with the nuance necessary to do something about it. I think for me, it comes from a couple places. Again, my parents, both my parents were really, really active. My mom in particular was a union organizer when I was growing up. Both of my parents were big union folks, and so I grew up a union kid on picket lines, and my grandma would say, "Don't take that baby on that picket line." But so they were concerned with things that were happening in our community. So I had really early exposure that way. They were members of, it seemed like, every organization in our town: Coalition of Black Trade Unionists, NAACP, Urban League, AFL-CIO, A. Philip Randolph Institute. So those are like some of my earliest memories in life is affiliation with those organizations and watching my parents go to conferences and those sorts of things. And then those issues were always very near and dear because they weren't sort of esoteric things, just global warming, which is an important issue. But I think, again, like back to the level of social activism you're engaging in, it was like this discrimination or disparity is happening down the street at the grocery store that we shop at. Like, the quality of our food isn't good. So I always, felt a really strong, palpable, and tangible sense of like, this is something real. And I think the other side of it, like, there's something I can do about it. And that just kind of continued into high school or really grade school. I remember being the person that was kind of antagonizing around things, and into high school and to college. And so it's been
So into college now then, knowing then definitely with your parents' investment in giving you the exposure and education to lead you in this path, you then start to find your own way in college. And part of that was the community service that I'm certain you were involved with. As I'm understanding, you are a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. Other service learning opportunities at your undergraduate institution that you would think we would want to encourage our students to consider these other organizations that are on our college campuses and have great relationships with our Black Studies programs?
Yeah. I was not the best student. I was a decent student because couldn't bring bad grades home in my house, but the way that I learned was actually through those organizations, right? So I was always in a lot of clubs and organizations, and I think have served in some leadership role in every single one of them, because again, for my own activism and engagement, having some executive role felt, I need that level of responsibility to feel like I'm really engaging. So besides Alpha Kappa Alpha, which I did my senior year, I was in Public Relations Student Society of America. I was in grad school. I did whatever the Public Administration Society was. I was involved with the Black Studies groups. Even though I wasn't a Black Studies major, there was a ton of things on campus that were that Black Studies was leading. I was a dance minor, so there were a lot of clubs around dance, and I think that was important, not just because I like dance, but it helped facilitate my learning, and it helped to clarify my thinking on things. I'm a pretty experiential person and a hands-on person, so dance has always helped me, something creative has always helped me to think about problem solving in a different way. And so a lot of those clubs and stuff just give you an opportunity to test your own leadership and really to figure out like what stuff you like, what stuff you don't like. Do you like to fundraise? Do you like to door knock? Do you like to be the person behind the scenes that makes sure that the ships not the ships, I guess the trains are running on time? So a lot of those orgs like gave me an opportunity to test a lot of that.
So we're seeing how you are a role model for our students, and we look forward to having you visit the Howard Mims Cultural Center, which engages our Black Studies majors and minors and other students who will possibly consider what we're studying in Black Studies. With that, advancing now with your professional career and being the CEO of Third Space, you selected a venue in the Glenville community, which has a rich history with the Black experience here in Cleveland. And then you've even selected a building with a very valuable legacy that is being sustained through the work that you are doing. Can you talk about why Glenville for Third Space, as we eventually will talk about Third Space, why Glenville, and why was that such a treasure to land the venue that you have for Third Space?
It's a great question. I think why Glenville, it's interesting. It was through like kind of my own continued racial equity journey. I've been wanting to do a cafe in what we're now calling a soul working space for over a decade. And that was really driven because of the kind of lack of space for people to just be, that I didn't see and didn't have growing up in Youngstown, I didn't have in Akron, I didn't see in Cleveland. And so when I was visiting cities like New York and DC and undergrad, they had these third places. And so the truth is I was really interested in doing the Third Space Cafe in Tremont or Ohio City or Detroit Shore, because when I first moved to Cleveland, I was really oriented west. Cleveland's a very east side, west side city. But the more that I started to really rigorously interrogate, like, why does Glenville look the way it looks and Ohio City looks the way it looks, or why does Huff look the way it looks and Tremont looks the way it looks, and why is this development so uneven? Glenville became a very obvious choice. So we were looking at a number of kind of vacant spaces along East 105th Street, which is an incredibly historic district and has been forever. And then we had the opportunity through the work of our local community development corporation in Glenville, Famicos Foundation, was rehabbing what's now called the Madison Building, which was formerly called the Medical Associates Building. And the history was so profound that it was kind of a no-brainer that, these 9 Black doctors came together in the early 60s because of their inability to practice at mainstream institutions, and they brought together their own money. They commissioned the first Black registered architect in the state of Ohio, Robert P. Madison, to build a building, and they saw people there for 50 years. And it was a center of Black excellence in that community for years, and it continues to be a source of inspiration and an important driver of our own work, because we still have people that come to the building looking for their doctor, and there was a very important institution in the community on the first floor. I guess it was a pharmacy first, and then it was a radical coffee shop and cafe, Deuteronomy Cafe.
Deuteronomy, yes.
And the proprietor of that cafe is still in the neighborhood, right? And so there's an important legacy that we have to uphold. We're not trying to be the young, hip, cool people that are coming in doing a new thing, but really trying to uphold a standard of excellence that I think people often forget.
And we're seeing that excellence continue through your work and your vision, a vision that you announced as a co-founder, because the efforts of the business allows you to have a partner, a business partner, Mordecai Cargill. So what inspired you to create Third Space, and how is it a continuation of your social activism?
So a few things. One, just a nod to Mordecai, and again, another connection to Black Studies. Mordecai is a graduate of the Black Studies program at Yale University, and so he brings a very important race analysis, cultural analysis that shapes our work. And we, when we were at our old job, Cleveland Neighborhood Progress, and we were thinking about community and economic development, his race analysis from his African American Studies program at Yale really informed a lot of my own thinking. I think also in terms of activism, there, in every city I've lived in, including New York City, and I lived in Harlem, which was a really profound experience. I had never lived in a black neighborhood like Harlem. I've always lived in black neighborhoods, but Harlem is a different special place. And so there always seemed to be a lack of places for black folks to just be. I've talked about this a lot publicly, that when I lived downtown in the Warehouse District, there were a lot of spaces that I just didn't feel welcomed, that my dollar didn't seem equal to everyone else's dollar. And, I was kind of tired of spending my money in places that didn't seem to want it really, And so I've also wanted, when I was exposed to the concept of third places, that your home is your first place and work or church is your second place, that every human being intrinsically deserves a third place where they can just be, whoever you are, however you are. And so, and those places are public and they're free. And so the idea of parks and libraries and those sorts of institutions are essential for our humanity. And that's what we're trying to recreate in our space, that has a specific eye towards the black experience and black culture. So it's everyone is welcome, but, a place that reflects who we are.
That's a great concept, even the concept of an action lab.
Yeah.
With that, it is in a neighborhood where my family has two home houses.
Yeah.
So I have watched the transitions in the community, and I see the great renovation that's occurring on East 105th Street, 105.
Yeah, 105. I was trying to
be, with that, we appreciate you. We appreciate our listeners for tuning in, and we will continue this conversation because there are the great things we can project into the third space after we listen to these messages from Cleveland State University.
Established in 1969, the Black Studies program at Cleveland State University is currently comprised of 5 academic components, as well as the Jazz Heritage Orchestra, which contribute to the program's mission to promote knowledge and understanding to be shared with all generations and cultures concerning the rich legacy of the African diaspora. There is the academic program, an interdisciplinary curriculum of nearly 80 courses offering a major and minor in Black Studies. The Howard A. Mims African American Cultural Center is open to the public and features art exhibitions, Kumba Arts presentations by various performing artists, a Curtis Wilson lecture series, panel discussions, and Umoja roundtables. The Ralph Pruitt Lecture, Art, and Media Series brings international and national speakers, artists, and films to the campus. Images, a half-hour public affairs radio broadcast interviews guests from many fields of endeavor. The 5th component is the Black Aspirations Celebration, a week-long event of culture, arts, and contemporary issues. The Jazz Heritage Orchestra is a 17-piece orchestra comprised of musicians who are educators. The orchestra is a long-standing affiliate of the Black Studies program. The Jazz Heritage Orchestra is dedicated to preserving and perpetuating the musical heritage of the great African American jazz masters. They are available for performance engagements. Dr. Thomas Bynum is the director of the Black Studies program. Prester Pickett is the coordinator of the African American Cultural Center. Dennis Reynolds is the artistic director of the Jazz Heritage Orchestra, and I'm Louis Abdul-Wali, the second student to graduate from Cleveland State University with a major in Black Studies from the College of Liberal Arts and Social Sciences.
And welcome back to Images. I'm Prester Pickett, your host for this broadcast of Images. We have with us Miss Evelyn Burnett, who is the co-founder and CEO of Third Space. We're talking about these outstanding initiatives that have been occurring on East 105, East 105th Street, here in Cleveland, in the Glenville community, right down the street from the VA hospital, as well, right down the street in the other direction from the historic churches, Corey United Methodist Church, that was a place where Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. visited. Actually, too, right around the corner, you have the Langston Hughes Library. And at that park is where he would have his truck settle to talk to the community. So again, that is the type of legacy and wealth in the community community that you've established, Third Space. We continue our conversation about this work you're doing that's focused on racial equity, the training that you're providing to our community members. Can you explain to our community the type of work that is actually occurring in that Third Space?
So since 2016, we've been bringing in the Racial Equity Institute. They're based in Greensboro, North Carolina, to provide as many people in our community as possible with a really strong race analysis. So I go back and forth on calling it a training. We do a half day. It's called the groundwater training or workshop, which gives a really kind of poignant analysis of disparities across all systems. So it's kind of like a lecture, data presentation where people have the opportunity to ask questions. And then the 2-day training, which is called Phase 1, is a deep dive. It's like I think of it as the how did we get here? Why did we get here? To start to inform our thinking about how we move forward. We're actually going to start bringing their Phase 2, which goes even deeper, because our theory of change is really around continued deeper awareness to more thoughtful action. Because I think that sometimes we are exposed to things and we're ready to act and we can actually do more harm than good. So awareness is very important. We've had about 5,200 people go through the half day or the 2-day training since 2016. It's had a really profound impact on my own thinking. I was a person that felt very woke, and I had these kind of activist parents, and so the Racial Equity Institute's pedagogy is really profound. It is not the end. It's not the be all. So we use it to inform our own thinking and our own practice. We provide our own racial equity workshops and use racial equity to undergird all of the work that we do with clients, because we are a business, and so we work with clients. And racial equity, the pursuit of racial equity and racial inclusion, having a race analysis in our work is a non-negotiable for Third Space Action Lab with our clients.
Now, I'm aware that you are working in the neighborhood with people who live in the neighborhood. Absolutely. And that's very important for people to have the ownership and that they're involved. Is it the Action Ambassadors is one of the arms that you have in that way? You're also bringing in people and showing people the value that African Americans have in helping to make America, as Dr. King would say, a better nation. With that, give us another picture of some of the other things that have occurred in that facility, in addition to the workshops and the educational activities that you have, so that our audience can understand when they drive by, they can look in the window and say, oh, that's where that is occurring in our community.
Yep. So at the physical location, and we've evolved our thinking about the physical space that we're in. It's a bit of an experiment and a prototype as well. Doing real estate in markets that some people would say are being rediscovered or discovered is tricky. So the physical space is a little bit about us like staking our claim in the ground that like this is a Black neighborhood. We're proud of that. We're excited about other folks coming in, but we are very concerned about things like gentrification and displacement, et cetera. We also believe in the value of all humans, especially, or not especially, but for sure Black folks, which I think is often lost in our development. Black folks, brown folks, poor folks, that if it's for them, it can be just okay. I don't believe that at all. I think that all people deserve value and high quality things, and I think that they deserve for sure beautiful things. So a bit of what we're trying to do in this space and experiment with it, which is challenging, is provide a space for people that's beautiful for whatever they need it for. So that's like one of our most important messages to the community. In one weekend, we had a birthday party, a wedding, and a repast, right? So for all stages of life, that this is for the community. It's for rent. It's for not rent. If you ain't got it, we get it, you know? But there are beautiful spaces besides church basements. And we are not here to replace anything in the community, but to offer another space for us to convene and to have radical discourse. We're opening a bookstore and a coffee shop, and so we call it a soul working space because there's tons of co-working all over Cleveland, and it's only growing as kind of work changes. But for us, and we were experimenting with co-working, but we decided on soul working because the people that we work with, that's what they need. So that's what we're trying to do in this space.
And you're accessible to the downtown community.
Sure.
Very serious issues related to racism, racism in Cleveland, across the state of Ohio, into the nation,
Everywhere.
and the challenges that we have. Can we advance our discussion in the few minutes that we have?
Please.
Time has flown
I
by
know.
in the conversation with
Talk to you forever.
We're excited about this. The discussion of the future for Third Space.
Yeah.
What projections do you have for the future? And then ways that you can consider possibly engaging some of our students through Black Studies.
Yeah.
And Cleveland State has other programs that can be attentive to the work that you're doing too. So the future, the vision.
Yeah. To grow. I want to bring on, I created Third Space with Mordecai, but my own vision was around creating a space where the dopest people could come and do important work for them, right? Often institutions are where good ideas and good people go to die, and I wanted to create something different. That was my experience in many places that I worked. And in terms of advice, I think that's what you're asking. I really would encourage students to take advantage of and I always used to hear this growing up, it sounded crazy, but to take advantage of things like Black Studies and the programming that Black Studies offers and across the campus, go take Greek or Latin or whatever, I think that if I had it to do again, I would think very differently and take more seriously the time I had to be in college and to learn and to learn without the kind of pressures of the day-to-day adulting, as I think folks call it. So there's such a plethora of wonderful resources, people, networks, clubs, groups, to just learn, to be in the space of learning, because learning is lifelong. So my advice would be to take advantage of that as much as possible. Be super tired because you're doing, you're super active and engaged with the resources around you.
Well, for you to know that Black Studies is advancing towards our activities in March and April,
Nice.
so Women's History Month is coming upon us, and there are a number of programs for our community to consider here at Cleveland State through the Black Studies program. We're working with honoring Rosa Parks, a member of your sorority as well, and acknowledged there. So with that, please have a chance to write down this phone number if you have an ink pen near you, and that is 216-687-3655. We will definitely put you in touch with Miss Evelyn Burnett, as well as the work that is being done in an outstanding way with Third Space. We are able to tell you about other programs here at Cleveland State, and most definitely the work that's being done through Black Studies with Dr. Thomas L. Bynum as our director, and a member of a family that's making a difference around the world now, we can say. We thank you as well. And again, that phone number for you to call for more information is 216-687-3655. We thank you, Ms. Burnett, for joining us and giving us this report where we will be able to follow your work and look at the measurable outcomes that Third Space is providing. And we thank you for tuning in to Images.
You have been listening to Images, a public affairs radio program produced by the Cleveland State University Black Studies program and this station. The opinions expressed were those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect those of Cleveland State University, the Black Studies program, or the station. We hope you have enjoyed the music performed by the Jazz Heritage Orchestra. If you are interested in finding out more about the Black Studies program, call 216-687-3655 or visit our website at www.csuohio.edu/blackstudies.